Today we discuss and explore the vineyards of Penedés in Spain, as we talk with Pepe Raventós, a maestro in winemaking and a custodian of a rich family history. Penedés, a region steeped in history and innovation, situated just westward of Barcelona, is a homeland of cava and sparkling methods. Pepe Raventós, a luminary in the world of viticulture, will guide us through the terroir of Penedés, sharing insight into the unique climate, soils and grape varieties that give birth to wines of unparalleled character. But that's not all. Buckle up as we talk about crafting classic method wines in Spain, as Raventos Blanc was the creator of the Cava blend. Pepe, with his deep-rooted connection to the land, will unravel the intricacy of traditional winemaking techniques that elevate Spanish sparkling wine and try to create his own league and categories. In our focus, we also talk about the still wines of the region and the old vines that are currently abandoned in the region and that Pepe is bringing back to life. At the time of our recording, grapes were coming into the cellars, just been harvested. So we will discuss about the current vintage, how it was, and how recent vintages have evolved. If you enjoyed the podcast, remember to like and subscribe. Now, on with the show. Hi, I'm Mattias Carpazza, and this is the Looking Into Wine podcast. Wine and winemaking can be complex, but this podcast has a simple mission. We want to give you the skills and tools to harness your passion about wine. Through this series, we will shine a spotlight on some of the different regions, process, and concepts that shape the fascinating world of wine. I hope you enjoy the show and your own journey looking into wine. Welcome to the Looking Into Wine podcast. I'm Mattias Carpazza, your host. And my guest today is the 21st generation viticulturist and a leading figure in the Spanish wine scene at Raventos Blanc in the Penedés mountains in northern Spain. An organic, sustainable winery that over the past 20 years have made some great efforts for the Spanish wine scene. I'm very happy to welcome on the show Pepe Raventós. Welcome, Pepe.
Thank you, Mattia. It's a far too generous presentation, but thank you very much for having me in your podcast.
It's a pleasure. So just before we start, I thought let's set a little bit of the scene. Tell me where are we in Spain with Raventos and your wineries and what makes it special about Penedés for your sparkling wines?
Well, Raventos Estate is located in northeast Penedés, 40 miles west of the city of Barcelona, inland. It's a gifted viticulture area, millenary, developing prestigious wines since the Roman empires of Augusto, that was based in Tarragona. The family has been farming the same plot since 1497 documented, maybe before, but that's why we can confirm we're the 21 generation, maybe more, but 21 for sure. No? And what made the farm famous is that in 1870s, my great-great-grandfather made the first Spanish champagne. That was the beginning of what has become the Cava miracle, the Cava success, maybe the second world's most famous sparkling wine region after the Champenoise. We continue this tradition, although we took the separate direction from Cava, but we're going to talk about this later.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I'm sure we have a few questions. So yeah, it was about the history of winemaking and traditional making. How did your great grandfather, which was called Manuel Raventos, how did he came about to start in doing the sparkling wine in a traditional method, and why did he choose these great varieties? Because I know you're a viticulturist, so I think a few questions are going to be
It's
about.
very simple. It's very simple. Penedés is one of the greatest valleys in the wine world. Why? Because we are in the best climate for viticulture, that is the Mediterranean climate. You know, the biggest pressure for any viticulturist is humidity. That pressures to fungi, like mildew, oidium, or even botrytis cinerea. Those are the three biggest challenges that we have. So being in a dry climate with a little bit of continental influence, drier and cold nights, is absolutely critical for growing with minimal intervention. But the second part of the element of being one of the best places in the world is that with Charello, white grape, and Sumoil, red grape, we can harvest at full ripening with pHs around 3, 2.95. I say 2.95 because when I say 3, some people say things I'm talking about 3.3, 3.4. No, like most of the regions. No, 3.0.
Okay.
So this is what makes Josep Raventós in 1870 say, wow, we can age our Charelos amazingly well. So these guys in Champagne are having a lot of success, and he traveled to Champagne several occasions to learn the method champenoise. And his son, Raventós Domènech, created the trilogy Xarel·lo, Parellada, Macabeu. Why? Because like in all the wine regions, you want to have different grapes to be less dependent on climatological risks.
Absolutely. And how do you, because I know you're viticulturist, how do you work them and what sort, I know I was speaking, then you're doing already some of the harvest at this point, or you're doing, what point, what are you doing at the moment in the vineyard?
At the moment, we're praying every morning and every evening for the rain to come, although it might be too late if it doesn't come next week. We are in one of the biggest droughts ever, and it's a big disaster. The good thing is that we don't have to treat. We are organic and biodynamic certified, but even so, we have to treat with copper and sulfur to combat mildew and oidio. If we don't do this, we don't harvest. Even in biodynamic, you have to do this. So imagine what you have to do in places like Bordeaux, right? And so this year there's a lot of health in the vineyards and minimal work. No? All the winter pruning is finished. All the green harvests are finished. All the vegetation is under control because it doesn't rain. We're just waiting for rain to come to find a little bit more balance and give a little bit of energy to the plant. We are worried for this harvest, and we are worried for 2024 winter pruning because there was very little pushing, especially in younger vines, Macabeus, Parelladas. The Charelos have resisted pretty well, but Parelladas and Macabeus are suffering really, really hard.
Okay, and how do you, I mean, I know it's a bit of a disaster this year in Europe in general. It's very hot, and because I mean, it's a massive problem everywhere. How do you see how did each variety, the Cerello and Parellada and the Macabeo, adds to the blends? What do you think they do to the blends? Why? What do you?
Mattia,
Yeah.
first, this year is not very hot in Penedés. This is important. Generalizations are complicated, and in wine business, we tend to generalize to one. This is a very dry year in Penedés. It's a rather warm one, but it was much warmer, for example, 2022. We had heat waves in May. This year we didn't have any. So, we have to be careful because media and social, they say yesterday it's the hottest day in planet, and then now everybody thinks that it's the hottest,
Yeah, no,
day.
it was the hottest days in Europe, and it was raining in London. So, no.
And so yeah, and then no, and the second one, thank you for asking, but I think this idea of what adds to the blend of certain regions is marketing bullshit. Pardon to be so direct. I mean, of course, every variety has different characteristics, but the reason to have different grapes is that you have different flowering moments, you have different bud breaking moments, you have different harvesting moments, and this enables you to work with more precision. If I were to start from now, and I would only plant Charello, and I would support my blends with grapes from other farmers in have I have problems in my farm. Penedés is also a gifted region with amazing old vineyards, waiting for somebody passionate to make good wine to pay €1 and buy these grapes. Because the disaster of the Cava evolution of the 80s, especially 90s and early 2000s, has made that the people don't pay per kilo of grape, and that farmers just produce tons, but of shitty grapes, and that's why Cava has become a disaster. And however, there are still very gifted terroirs with very passionate farmers that are keeping the old vines, that are making organic and detailed viticulture, should I say, and they have amazing grapes for selling. So I encourage anybody that wants to make wine to come and join us in Penedés, because there is an opportunity to work into quality.
Absolutely, and that was the reason I think that in 2012 you decided was. I mean, there has been a bit of an exodus at the moment with Cava. Some of the, I think, more leading producer or some of the more quality oriented producer decide to leave. But you decided to work on your Conca de Rio Anoia. I'm sorry if I saying that wrong, but
No, no, no.
you're trying to create your own work around it. Where is it? Why is it so special for you? This
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is very simple. I was trained in France. I made wines with Dagenau in 2004 with Didier. That was like critical for getting inspiration. And I realized this more and more growing old. At that time, I didn't recognize the impact that it would have to me. Also in Burgundy, in Saint-Aubin, in Champagne, in the Nahe Valley in Germany. And I spent quite a lot of time in Barolo lately, learning from the Nebbiolos. And actually, I'm having a good friend, um, Andrea Sotimano from Arbaresco, coming this harvest to help me with some ideas to be more gentle with the some oils. No, so I mean, and so what happens is that you fall in love with wine, and you fall in love with place, and you realize that it's all about that sense of place, that respect, that detail, that humble, no, that nature teaches us every day. No, I sadly was raised in a city because we went very difficult economic times in the 90s, and I got a little confused in the city. But with the years, spending more years, now I have been 7 years living back in the farm, and I think I start to understand a little bit about this. No? In 2012, what happened is that I already realized that Cava was what do you say, like a no exit road, no? And that we don't hate the players, we had to change the game. Eh? And I had spent so many times saying, oh, I'm Cava, but I am different, and say, yeah, we have to start from scratch. And so the vision is very simple. Eh? It's a new Penedés. It's a new vision of Penedés, more Burgundy, if you want to, if you accept the simplification, with Charelos and Sumoils, period. And it's a Penedés that talks about its valleys, its villages, its vineyards, its parcels, its orientations, its soils, the passionate people making wine there. And it doesn't talk about politics, about requisites, about marketing, and about I am the best winemaker in the world. You know.
Okay, absolutely. And as there, so how far you think you are from trying to get an
Well, listen, when we
approbation?
started, we were considered the rebel guys on the block and the black sheep. And after a few years, Classic Penedés appeared, and after a few more years, the Corpinat appeared. So now we are not just the black sheep; it appears that we are a bunch of black sheep grazing around here in Penedés. No? This has created some sensibility to the Catalan government and is starting to listen to us more carefully. And I think this has enabled to create a group of different independent farmers and the Catalan government to push to create an appellation, which is also interesting because Cava depends from Madrid, and this excites us a lot, the Catalan government, to push for a much better appellation that is regulated here in Catalonia. No? So I can see this happening. I would say during my generation.
Okay,
No,
fantastic.
wine business is very old-fashioned, and we talk generations. We don't talk years like the technology, Apple and Google, and all that disaster.
Yeah, no, exactly. I know it takes times to do anything, any changes or anything. You're not.
Well, sometimes it takes very little time to destroy the world, because Apple and Google and all these guys have destroyed our peace of mind in one generation, maybe.
Yeah, no, exactly. Less than that, and it would be like 20 years. And last 20 years, they managed to change everything, and we'll see what will happen soon. I wanted to ask about your work with. It was you mentioned earlier Danganau and some of the Oliver Lamy in Burgundy. How did what did you learn from them? What did you take back when you
I mean,
moved to
I
Spain?
think I have different approaches from everything, no? From every place. No, I would say from Dagenau, I learned vision, no? An idea of vision that goes above all, an idea of passion, an idea of attention to detail, and of belief. In Burgundy, I think you really get this idea of soil, no? The importance of place. I think there's nowhere else in the world that teaches you better, like the importance of place and of vintage and of like although they seem sometimes a little arrogant with their attitude and prices, I think they are the most nature oriented. No, in Champagne, I learn more technical things, technical aspects about details like the importance of whole cluster pressing, and also I learned um, that champagne is not as good as people think. Meaning that like I mean, it's great. Listen, but it's like we can have a great red wine from many different places. We can decide the same with whites, but when it comes to into sparkling, it seems that the wine lovers we only drink champagne, and that's stupid. No, I think the world needs alternatives. So one day we like a more fruity, we drink a champagne. One day we like a more acid, we drink an English. One day we like a more mineral, we drink a sparkling wine from northern Penedés.
Okay. And where do you see the market? I think is interesting. Where do you see the market for your wines and cava? Because I mean, I love cavas and I love the Spanish wine. I do try quite a lot of them, but I know that the market is I'm a bit of
Listen,
contra.
I don't want to seem rude at all, but I hate to talk about market, anything that relates to market, to marketing, to customer, to labels, to naming, and all this. I hate it. I think there are so many interesting things to talk about in terms of nature and viticulture and traditions and culture that the older I grow, the more
Absolutely. I mean, I was just curious, and fair enough. So, so I know you were talking earlier about the old vine or some of the new, some of the working, some of the work of viticulturists around there, and I saw then you launch a couple of still wine projects or new projects, your Pepe Raventós. Can you tell me the ideas of? I think the more interesting, well, not the more interesting, but I think it's more related the Can Sumoi.
yes.
I think what is that, and what is the vision there?
The Kansumoi is my everyday passion now. Is the project that we started in 2016 to find a place for our still wines to express. Some still wines I started when I was very young to work full capacity in Raventos y Blanc and save us from the economic problems. And finally, Raventos y Blanc can walk by itself and concentrate to its vision, that is to make the best possible sparkling wines from northern Penedés, which is the region that offers the best mineral sparkling wines in the world. And I felt the need to find a place for the still wines. And that was in Baix Penedès, but at 600 meters altitude, an abandoned wine farm that we purchased for very little money, and we're recuperating little by little. The name is the home of Sumoll in Catalan. It's established in 1600s, and it's like a sign that we are obliged to make the best possible Sumoll. And this is what we're working. We started with a little bit of a more approachable wines, young rosé made with Sumoll and Xarel·lo, a young white Grenache from near the farm, uh, not so young Xarel·lo, but approachable, 100% Xarel·lo, and a blend of Garnacha and Sumoll, while we learn with Sumoll that it's so difficult that the Garnacha, it's much easier to understand and it blends, helps the wine to be understood. But the real vision and challenge in Can Sumoll is to make world-class reds of Sumoll from different origins, the mountains of Montmell in the property, and a village called Rodonyà that is down in the valley, but it is the resistance of Sumoll. And thanks to the Rodonyà farmers, that grape has not been taken away for the Cava trend and for the international varieties bad trend and decisions of the 80s here in Catalan and overall in Spain.
Yeah, I mean, I know uprooting is a bit of a problem anywhere for like the trends and everything. I mean, I work a little bit with the wine with someone in Veneto, and I mean, it's a disaster to see what they're doing at uprooting everything for. Anyway, so you work with what is this sumoy grape?
Yeah.
What is
Sumoll, Sumoll.
sumoy?
Sumoll grape, Mattia, maybe in 20 years will be rivaling Pinot Noir, Nebbiolo, Mencia, and Garnacha, and, and Merlot, if you want, or Cabernet, to say a few. Sumoy grape is amazing. And it's so amazing that because it's so amazing because it has a lot of tannin, full ripening at very low pH. These two things give it an immense aging capability. At the same time, holds very well if you want to age in concrete, in wood, and whatever clay material you want to use. And it's so amazing because it's different. It tastes like no other. And I mean, I see like this also like an earthiness to it, uh, a certain rusticity that gives the wine like an edgy note, which is really really fulfilling. However, it was used for volume in the past. There are three clones: big grain, oval grain, and little grain. And most people concentrated on the big grain for mass production. So oval and small was almost abandoned. And then the cava came and the international grapes, so like it almost disappeared. Meaning that now, for the last maybe 15 to 10 years, we're starting to recuperate wood of a small and oval grain, replant in other places. There are still maybe, I don't know, 400, no, 50 hectares of like good selection sumois. And so it's very early. So I can just tell you this, and that we are working. We're putting a lot of effort. We're This morning I was walking in these vineyards. Yesterday we're discussing if we use more local clay or chestnut for some of them, according to the tastings of the previous vintages. The wines are still not on the market, so it's a really revolutionary, inspiring, and intense moment.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting, especially like when you said that the 600 meters of altitude. I mean,
Mhm.
altitude seems to be one of the key mitigators. A lot of people are looking at altitude. What sort of altitude then you have in your Raventos? Because you say is lower.
Yeah, here we are between 200 and 300 meters above sea level.
Okay.
But again, for the combination of soils and where we are located, and the climatology and these grapes, we're harvesting at super low pH. And not because of this, but I also think that, what, people now talk about altitude, and people talk about go to the north, and people go out. And, I think people need to talk less and do better the job, because we don't know anything. And wine is a mystery. Life is a mystery. Imagine wine. That is just about tasting. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe the best wines in the future will be made in northern Argelia when we recuperate the amazing job that some people were doing in northern Argelia. Nobody talks about this, no. So I think it's important, especially for you, the people that are in the communication side, and going to people, trying to simplify the messages and encourage people to taste wine. Wine is living in an amazing moment, no. That a lot of people from all over the world are awakening into wine, and a lot of regions are recuperating essence. It's not that we just want to celebrate with food and wine, no. And I think this it's a little bit addictive, and we need to be careful with this. I think there are many important things in life to balance, but it is true that the wine moment is fantastic. However, it's important to simplify the messages and encourage people to make their own idea, no, and to let the wine talk to them, and not us winemakers, us wine journalists talk to the people, so they don't connect with the wine when they are drinking. They are simply,
Yeah.
following like a mental scheme.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think it's important to ask a question to winemakers and trying to understand exactly what's happening behind the scene, because sometimes you feel like you get just I don't do anything. The worst answer I can get from a winemaker is like I don't do anything, and
Mm.
especially in the cellar. So So for your core, the Raventos, what are the? I mean, I tasted the Init brand, which was I tasted the rosé and the white. What great varieties do you use to make the rosés, and what do you use in there? Because
With the Denit, I planted Pinot Noir and totally mess up. Never succeeded. 4 years, too much color, low acidity. And finally, one day, talking to Antoine Villecar, he told me that his grandfather was the first to blend Coteau Champenoise for the Villecar Salmon Rosé. And that was inspiring because I realized I should find a red grape, local from here, to blend with the Xarel·lo Parellada Macabeu and make a rosé. And that started with Monastrell, because the ripening is more or less in the middle between the Macabeo and the Xarel·lo, and that was very helpful to co-ferment and to start to play with this. No? So now with the Denit, after the years, it's a painting of the white grapes made with a Monastrell grape. And also we have planted lately more Sumoll in the property, and I can see more Sumoll. It has been super successful in our highest altitude vineyard called the Vinya Més Alta in Raventos, as a Blanc de Noirs called Textures de Pedra, which I encourage you to taste. I'll tell Danny to send you some because it's a wine that it shows a lot of depth and a lot of intensity from the minerals. And also it's interesting because it's a Blanc de Noirs with mainly Sumoll and Xarel·lo Vermell and a little bit of Bastardonero, that in Catalan we call Bastard Negre.
okay, interesting. And what about your aging? So I was reading you're only working at the moment with local grape varieties. So you don't do any international grape varieties for the Raventos. What about your agings? What is your vision there? Do you do anything interesting in the base wine? Do you do any like oak or anything anything in there? Then
We do all, but we don't like to talk about it. Eh?
okay,
I think because I think it's too. It's like my wine is very good because I am biodynamic. My wine is very good because I age with a cork. My wine is very good because I keep some wines from the previous vintage, etc. Eh? But if it's of your interest, when you come visit, we can walk the cellar, talk it all, and taste it all, and share the results. Eh?
yeah, absolutely. And where did you start your biodynamic vision? Where did you start? Because I know you.
I would say, when did we lose our biodynamic approach? And
Okay.
I will say we lost it in the 60s with when the first tractors arrived to Spain, and in the 70s, especially the 80s, when the greed for mass production, or I would say high yields, and exploit the vineyards and the land, became like more of no pests and all kind of chemicals to control and the growth and the health of the vineyards, and a lot of tractors and machinery and air conditioning and all that bullshit. And yeah, and we kind of lost this approach. And I think in the early 2000s we realized that we needed to recuperate. That for us it was not about volume, and that we needed to work towards making something good at home and for the valley and for the territory, and hopefully a small sand stone, no, in like one do here, one do
Yeah.
there. It has some effects, no.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is your because you're talking about Sandgrams, I think like the movement of the we're talking about like the corporate movement they seem to be doing. What is your view for corporate, and what is it doing? Is it good that more people are trying to move from the
I
Cava?
think I think I think classic Penedés was very good
Uh-huh.
because it proposed a better alternative to Cava. I think Corpinat was very good because it proposed even better requisites, not working seriously than classic. But we didn't join any because I think neither one is good enough. Eh? And although we were invited in both, I think we had clear that the idea has to be an appellation, and the protagonism is not about the brands
Yeah.
and the houses and the families. The protagonism is in the place, in the territory, in the valley, in the villages, especially with the people that don't have the resources. No, so I am very critical, and this we can talk in more private about how these two associations have been created.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. So what is the situation like for like smaller producer? Are you working a lot with like new like local farmer to buy some of the grapes? You looking for new plots for your project? I can see you there's a lot of project in the pipeline for Raventos. I feel like you have a lot of visions. But yeah.
Well, listen, it's at the end is very simple. When you want to add value to the territory, it's a matter of working with the best farmers and giving them a sense of hope,
Mhm.
which basically concretes in paying at least €1 per kilo of Xarel·lo Parellada Macabeu Sumoll. Hopefully 2 euros soon. Now we are paying one. We're still are at more than twice the average of the sector, and we're the leading payers at a certain significant amount. No, but it's not enough. This is the sandstone we were talking about.
Yeah.
When this you find this way, it's fantastic because people that love wine in the world supports the idea, and so it's like more of a multiplying effect. No? And so the same that we did in Raventos y Blanc in the last 25 years, recuperating biodynamics, like you say, and working with the nature, not against the nature, and working with the people and not against the people. Now we're trying to make with Kansumoy, and and there are, I insist, amazing plots and amazing people passionate waiting for this change to happen, because the people that work in the nature don't need much to live. They are not as stupid like me that need to go to Greece for vacation, which I love, but I mean, if you can, you go, but you don't have to, or go out every night to a restaurant or something. No, a very much more humble way of living. And however, if they are so much in love with their villages and the vineyards and the places, that when they see people that can help to transmit this way of working the vineyards via wine to the passionate people in the world, they love it. No? And I think this is the reality pretty much around Spain, not only Penedés today.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can see a lot of. I mean, there's a few movement growing around the Spain. It's very interesting to see what's happening. I love to see the new producers or the new projects or the new ideas coming out of Spain. It seems to be moving fast.
Let me let me suggest here, Matthias, there is an association that has been created in the last years, which I think is very important for you to do a podcast. It's called Futuro Viñador. Um, it's born a little bit after a book that Luis Gutierrez, which you should interview here, created. It's a fantastic first movement, because it's transversal from the different appellations in Spain, different territories, from Galicia to the Canary Islands to Murcia, but with people with a more love for wine, and then that really get about this idea of people, of place, of farming, etc. So Futuro Viñador, very interesting. I'll ask Danny to share with you and connect you with Marta. Marta is our director, and she can put you in contact with other producers from the appellation, from the association, sorry, or also maybe you can have a podcast with her as the director. She can tell you a little bit. But it's very interesting, and for people that love wine, to see a little bit what's happening from different regions, and not only just hear what boring Pepe Raventós has to say.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting. I love to see these projects. I do a lot of work with the guys at the Old Vine Conference, and I was thinking when you're talking about the old vines in there, I was thinking I need to connect you with Sarah. I think she would be very interested to see. But I mean, I can see a lot of energy. I can see a lot of projects, and I mean, I tasted the wine. I knew about the wines, and I was very excited when. Danny asked if I wanted to interview you. I usually turn. I don't know. I don't often say yes to producer pitch, because I often find that some of them are not my cup of tea, or then the story is not. The region is not very interesting, or I can speak to someone else about it. But I thought the story here was really interesting. And just I know you don't like to speak about your commercial side, but where are your wines find? Where I know in the UK you distribute, and I know the distributor very well, and you can find them in UK. What other countries are you at the moment? Or
I don't talk about this, Matia,
no?
and I won't.
Okay,
But,
fine.
but I would say one thing. In Newfoundland, Labrador, Northern Canada, there's an amazing little hotel that is so passionately carrying our wines, and I love it.
Okay, fantastic.
I'll tell Danny to share the link with you, so you can take your loved people, your loved friends, your loved ones to the most secluded place outside in the northern pole.
Absolutely. Okay, that gives an example where you can find the one. Is fair enough. Okay, Pepe. I know you're fighting the drought and you have a lot of projects going on and a lot of things happening at the
No, no,
moment.
no. Listen, making wine is the easy part. That's another thing that people, I'm the winemaker. No, no. The difficult part is the communication side that you do, the distribution side that the importers do, etc. When I say I don't talk about this, is not because I don't respect that work. It's a very important work because I think we need to really simplify the message, like we were talking before. It is true that harvest is approaching, Mattia,
Hmm.
and sadly, it's not going to be a late one. So we're a little bit in organization mode here.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think this vintage will be very interesting to see what happen anywhere. I mean, I was speaking to Danny earlier. Than here in London, it's been quite cold, and he was like, "Oh, you're lucky." I was like, "Well, I might be lucky, but I don't know how happy the winemakers or the producer in the UK are because
Mm,
they
mm.
really need the heat, and otherwise nothing will come out properly." So yeah, it would be interesting. Pepe, thank you so much for this half an hour together. I think it's really interesting to hear your stories and what you're doing at Raventos and new projects. Anything you would like to add before we go, or anything you wanted to say that you think we haven't
I
covered?
think what you just said it, that the beauty of the wine is that no vintage is perfect, and that there are always things that we crave for. We are in the cold UK, we want more heat for ripening. We are in the warm Mediterranean, we want more cool air and rain for our grapes. We are in California, and we have other challenges, sometimes sad, like the wildfire pressures.
Yeah.
And but this I think humbles us and connects us more with our essence and with nature, and in a world that everything is so perfect and so, we want to control aging, we want to go to the moon, we even send our loved ones to see the Titanic, and a disaster happens. I mean, I think we're so lost in ego that we I don't know, I think that imperfection and that vintage characteristic, that I think it's something that
Yeah.
gives value, no.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I find it so humbling every time I speak to someone who actually works the land, and is actually out there. I find it so valuable. It's always so interesting to see where they fought and what people think. So I live in a city and I lose it sometimes, and I'm
Mm.
originally from the countryside. It's a completely different mindset, and I think it's well lost in some of the cities and some part of the world. I completely agree with you there. Pepe, thank you so much.
We are also lost in the countryside,
Yeah.
because technology and iPads and everything, puts us in a more mental mode, and we are in the middle of the nature. We don't even see it. So I think it's a global phenomenon that we need to approach.
Yeah, exactly. Pepe, thank you so much. I'll let you carry on with your projects and everything, and I wish you all the best with Raventos and your new projects that come soon and everything. Thank you.
Thank you, and help Danny to promote the work we do in the Instagram that he will share with you. And if your travels take you to Barcelona, take a quick train. We'll pick you up at the station here in Sant Sadurní d'Anoia, okay?
Okay, thank you. You listen to the Looking into Wine podcast with Pepe Raventós of Raventos e Blanc. If you enjoy the podcast, you can find it on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening apps.